New developments tonight. The Russia probe. A former key insider of the president was interviewed today on Capitol Hill by the House Intelligence Committee. And then, of course, we have our own breaking news. The IRS now sharing information with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell serves on the House Intelligence Committee. He joins us now. First of all, Congressman, I'm wondering what your reaction to the reporting that, according to CNN sources, the IRS is now sharing information with Mueller's team.
Well, Anderson, good evening. That is encouraging. I don't think any investigation in Congress or criminal would be complete without looking at the president's taxes and the taxes of other individuals who had financial dealings with Russia. We have seen consistently the president has denied any prior financial transactions or dealings with Russia, and only because of media reporting and investigations we've seen that he had an interest in doing business with the Russians, putting a Trump Tower in Moscow during the campaign, and then prior patents that were given to him in Russia, Russians who have bought and invested in real estate in the United States. So following the money is a time-tested principle, and I hope that's what they're doing here.
So just to be clear, you think that Mueller should be looking at the president's tax returns?
Yes, absolutely.
The closed-door interview between your committee and Roger Stone today, after the interview, Stone described it as a, quote, frank exchange. He also said it was, quote, an entirely political exercise. I know you can't get into direct testimony, but how would you characterize it? Did you get the answers you were looking for?
Well, Mr. Stone's significance starts and ends with a tweet that he sent telling the world that John Podesta was going to spend his time in the barrel. And then 2 months later, we learned that John Podesta's emails were hacked. And when Mr. Stone was asked, well, who were you talking to at WikiLeaks? He first said Julian Assange publicly, and then now is asserting that it was an intermediary, and he refused, because this was a voluntary interview, to disclose who the intermediary is. I hope that he has the same sense for country and duty to get to the bottom of this as we do, and that he'll be forthcoming with that. Otherwise, we're going to have to subpoena him and get that information.
Your colleague, Ranking Member Schiff, said that one of the key takeaways today was Stone's unwillingness to answer questions about his relationship, as you just said.
Principally around who was he talking to. You know, the intelligence community has assessed that it was indeed Russians who he was talking to, who had hacked Secretary Clinton's emails and the DNC emails and John Podesta's emails, and then disseminated them. And so he was in contact with them. He sent messages asking them to do things on his behalf, and he was helping disseminate their hacked emails on theirs. So there was a working relationship they had established. So it'd be very helpful to know who he was working with. Also, Anderson, I should point out, in his public opening statement, he said that the DNC should have cooperated and been more forthcoming by turning over the server that was hacked. And I think in that same spirit, he needs to be forthcoming.
According to CNN's reporting, special counsel investigators could start interviewing current and former White House staff as soon as later this week, including Reince Priebus, Sean Spicer, Hope Hicks, the White House counsel Don McGahn. I know you can't talk about who your committee would like to interview, but generally speaking, how key are those players in the investigation?
Most of them are pivotal, Anderson. Many of them were communicating with Russians during the peak time of Russian interference. And I hope that we're inspired to move as fast in this investigation and as thoroughly as it appears that Bob Mueller and his team are doing. I think the best thing that we can do to protect against a future attack is to show unity among Republicans and Democrats. That's the best shield. The best way to sharpen Russian swords for the next election is disunity.
Congressman Eric Swalwell, always appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Anderson.
Coming up, the ridiculous is next. We'll be right back.